Morning. Welcome to Zoho Meeting webinars. Today, we're going to see about how to use Zoho Meeting as your online meeting and webinar tool. Let's see how you can interact with us today. As an attendee of the webinar, you will all be in listen and view only mode. I hope my voice is clear and audible to everyone. You can also give a thumbs up and a thumbs down if you have any technical difficulty in hearing and viewing my screen. And if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to ask them in the Q&A option on your screen. And here we have our experts who will respond to your questions throughout the session. As an introduction about myself, this is Kavitha from Zoho Meeting team, and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. I'm an expertise in this online meeting and webinar tool and have a total experience of 3 years in this video conferencing platform. Now, let's see the agenda for today's session. I'm going to start with a brief introduction about Zoho Meeting and how should we use it. With a demonstration of the new version, I will give you a complete walkthrough of Zoho Meeting. Then, we're going to see some scenarios to get an overview on how exactly the module works. Followed by this, we will learn how to set up your account with your corporate branding, add users, and associate profiles. Finally, I'll wrap up the session with a roadmap to show you some of the upcoming features in online meeting and webinar solutions. Now, we will see a brief introduction about our online meeting software. What is an online meeting? Online meeting is a collaborative session with real-time audio, video, and screen sharing. Here you can initiate or join meetings from anywhere and also collaborate effectively with the moderator controls. So, this online meeting module will be most helpful if you want to conduct a conference or if you're doing a remote work and also provide remote clinical services to your patients. Now that we have understood how Zoho Meeting can be used as your video conferencing tool, but right now we are going to see about the overview of Zoho Meeting. So here's the home screen of Zoho Meeting where you can see Meet Now and Schedule Meeting button in order to get a quick access to your online meetings. So whenever quick decisions are needed, you can just conduct an instant meeting from anywhere using the Meet Now button. So right now, I'm going to start an instant meeting and invite the participants in my ongoing session. So as you see, it doesn't ask me to download any application because it is going to join the session from the browser itself. So this is how the presenter screen of the meeting window looks like. Now, let me show you how a participant joins the session. If you'd like to invite someone on your ongoing session, you need not to go back to your meeting details page to fetch the meeting link because Zoho Meeting provides an option to get the meeting link from the participants tab itself. So here you can click on the invite button from the participants tab and get the meeting link right from here. If you'd like to invite someone, you can just go for inviting them using their email address. So here I have copied the link and I'm going to join as a participant for the same meeting. So I'm going to use a different browser right now. And as you see, it will not ask me to download any application and it will be a browser based meeting. So the participant here, they need to choose the audio and video sources of their choice and they can click on the done button. Moreover, they will also be able to join the session using the phone audio. So what is phone audio? The phone audio allows them to dial in through their phone using the dial-in numbers given for the respective countries along with the access code. So here they have an option of choosing the country from the option, and once done, they can click on the done button. But right now I'm going to go for the computer audio and click on the done button. So this is how the participant screen looks like. Now we come back to the presenter screen. On the bottom menu bar, you will be provided with a list of tools and tabs with its respective features. The first one we are going to see is about the participants. So through this, you can see the list of the participant names, those who have joined the session. Using the more actions provided next to each participant, you can see certain options and controls. Now, let's see them one by one. The first one is to replace their names using their nicknames. So here we have a rename button. So where you have an option of renaming them here. The second option is one of the moderator controls provided within the session. The give control option will be enabled only when you do a screen share. So this is nothing but a remote access by providing your mouse and keyboard control to your participants. The third one is to remove the participants from the session when they are no longer part of your discussion. And we also have an option of making any participant as a co host within the session itself. For example, if you're having any other work or have to jump on to another meeting, you can quickly make any of your participants as a co host and leave the session. Now, coming to the mute icon, you can use the individual mute icon provided next to each participant, or else the mute all button at the bottom to mute them in a single click. Here you have a search, sort, and also the filter icon to easily categorize your attendees. Coming to the meeting title, if you have started an instant meeting, the session will be titled after your name. Here you can make use of the edit icon to change the meeting title as per your requirement. All right. So now we move on to the next tab, chat. Here you can have a collaborative communication among your participants using this public chat. Similarly, the participants will also be able to have a chat conversation with the presenter as well as with the other participants. Now, in order to enhance the ease of access, we have provided a tab view to easily navigate the chat, notes, polls, as well as the attendees from the participants tab itself. Now, coming back to the chat, the meeting chat is actually powered by Zoho Click, through which you can send out images, share files, and documents using this attachment icon. And if you're muted during the meeting to avoid any interruption, here you can make use of the microphone icon to send out voice messages through the chat itself. All right. So now we step on to notes. So we have a built-in notes feature that is actually powered by Zoho Notebook. So using this, you can take down any important lectures and points that has been discussed during your online session. Now, moving on to polls, similar to webinar, here we have introduced the polls option in online meeting, through which you can conduct a quick survey during the meeting or in your conference. So here as a presenter, you can create a set of questions, surveys, opinions using this poll, and where the participants will be able to respond on it. So here I've already created some of the polls here. So once a poll has been started, there will be a pop-up on the participant window in order to respond to it. And once they have responded, the results will be instantly recorded on the presenter screen. Now, let's move on to start sharing. Screen sharing is an essential part of collaborating during the online meeting. Anyone in a meeting can share their screen with other participants. Here we have entire screen sharing, Chrome tab, as well as a window sharing. So if you'd like to go for specifically sharing a tab here, you can go for checking it in the preview and share that respective tab. Besides, a participant also be able to share their screen with other participants. So not only an option to share the screen, we have also come up with an option called share files. So here you can use the share files option to share only a certain document, slides, play videos during your conference. Now let's see about it. So here comes the session material window, which will provide you an option to select the files that you want to share. So I have already uploaded some in my library. If you are a work drive user, you can also go for uploading it from your work drive account as well. So these files will be shown here. So where you will have an option of click it on and share it on your online meeting. Now let's move on to whiteboard. So this is a visual collaboration tool which helps you when you are in the remote work. So let's say if you're explaining a tedious application through a demo, you can use this whiteboard to design a workflow about the application so that you can make your participants to understand about the product easily. The interesting part here is, as you see, the participants will also be able to collaborate on the whiteboard that is shared by the presenter. So this tool will help your participants by providing the communication very much easier. Now, let's move on to reactions and raise hand. The purpose of these features is to make the session to be more interactive and engaging. The participants and the presenter can now raise their hands in order to clarify their concerns. And additionally, they can use the live reactions to react when someone is speaking during the session. And as the presenter, here you can see the live count on the number of raised hands from the icon down below. Now, let's move on to more actions. So the more actions consists of lot of settings of your current meeting, and you can also use the other moderator controls provided within the session. So here we have a moderator control that is lock meeting. In order to conduct a secure online meeting and to minimize the interruptions, you can make use of this lock meeting feature. So through this, you can make your meetings more confidential to keep them secure from unexpected attendees. Here you will be notified when someone tries to enter your meeting, so you can let them in only if you want to. So let me show you a sample on how exactly this lock meeting feature is going to work. So as you see, I have right now locked this meeting, and right now I'm going to join as a participant for the same meeting. I'm going to give a different name right now. So as you see, the participant gets a pop-up that the meeting is locked and waiting for an approval. Now, when you come back to the presenter screen, the presenter has a pop-up in order to accept or reject the entry. So the participant will not be able to join the session even though if they have the join link. But once the participant gets approval from the presenter, then they can join the session. So you can use this lock meeting option as a waiting room concept for your meeting. Now, let's move on to the second one, which is recording. You can record all your meetings to watch them online later, and also you can share it with the members who couldn't attend your meeting. Here, when you start recording the meeting, the participants will be notified with a recording in progress message due to privacy reasons. And moreover, I have enabled auto recording functionality for my meeting, so the session starts to record automatically without my intervention. And here we have already introduced an option of pausing and resuming the recording whenever you want. So if you don't want to record any part of your session, you can make use of the pause recording option. Now, let's move on to the third option, that is virtual background. Using the virtual background, you can easily change the background or disable the same in your ongoing meeting. And we have also introduced an option of uploading the custom images as a background and apply them during your online meeting. All right. So before we see about this picture in picture, now let's see a scenario and collate this feature. We have a presenter who got stuck with a meeting and another important work to do. So what will the presenter do now? So he cannot handle both the things at the same time. So on this situation, Zoho Meeting provides this picture-in-picture option where the video feeds and the meeting controls will be floated on the shared screen. So let me tell you about it. So once the picture in picture is turned on, the video feeds of the other participant and option to audio, video, and the end the meeting in this mode can be done on the picture in picture. So this provides the floating window that can be dragged to any corner. So through this, the presenter can stay attentive to the meeting on some other site. All right, so now let's close this and now we come back to the presenter screen. So now we are going to see an important tool that is network performance. So from the network performance, you can just calculate the performance of your network and how the other optimizations taken place in your account. And also here we have an audio and video settings provided in the more actions through which you can easily change the devices of your current session. So without ending the meeting, you can modify the devices within the session itself. Now, let's move on to layouts. Here we have multiple layouts feature through which you can view the video feeds of your other participants in gallery view, active speaker, and the sidebar. All right. Now let's step on to the last option, that is preferences. We have provided a lot of options in the preferences that can be enabled or disabled according to your choice. And once you're done with the meeting, you can click on the exit button to end the meeting for all of your participants. All right. So as of now, we saw on how to conduct an online meeting. Now we will learn a few things in Zoho Meeting based on scenarios. Here comes the scenario 2. Let's imagine we have a business HR here who had conducted a meeting with his colleagues and looking for a way to access the notes taken down during the session. So here, Zoho Meeting provides an option to collect the notes at the session summary. So whenever you end any meeting, you will have an option called the session summary once the meeting gets over. So from here, you will have an option of getting the chat, notes, and the polls from the session summary itself. You will also be able to view and download the chat right from the same page itself. So instead of searching for these details, you can easily get it accessed from the session summary itself. All right, so now we move on to scenario 3. Here, a product manager wants to schedule a meeting with his colleague and his product client. So for this, you need to access the meetings type instead. So till now, we have seen how we are going to start an instant meeting. And right now, we are going to learn how to schedule an upcoming meeting in advance. So this is how the scheduling page looks like when you click on the schedule meeting button. And here you need to give a suitable topic for your meeting and a detailed description here in the agenda. Once it is provided, you can choose the date, time, and the duration on how long the meeting has to be hosted. Coming to the host field, by default, you will be the presenter of the meeting that you schedule. But you can also use the drop down option to assign the presenter role to other members in your organization. And here comes the participant field where you can select and invite the members from your contact list. Because we have done an internal integration with Zoho Contacts, where you can access the Zoho Contacts using contacts.zoho.com and click on the more actions to import your contacts. If you have the sheet in a local file or else your Gmail contacts or your Outlook contacts, you can import it right from here. So what will happen is these contacts will be listed out here, and whenever you start typing in their name, it will be providing you an auto suggestion list. So where you need not to type their email address completely and you can easily pick them up. So whenever a meeting is scheduled, these contacts will be receiving an invitation email along with a join button in it. Now let me show you a sample email invite which I have done. So already I have created a meeting and this is a participant who has received this email invite to join the meeting. So it will have a RSVP section stating yes, maybe or no. So through which you will be getting the responses based on the options they choose. They will also have a join meeting button through which they can join the meeting at the scheduled time. So this is how you can schedule a normal meeting in advance. Now let's go for scenario 4. Here we have a managing director of a company who wants to discuss the work progress on each and every month with his employees. So for this, you need not to create a meeting for each and every month individually because Zoho Meeting provides an option to create the recurring meeting from more options. So as you see, here is a more actions provided on the scheduling page where you will have an option called recurring meeting. Here you need to choose whether you need to schedule a daily, weekly, or a monthly meeting. You need to specify when and how the meeting should repeat and when it should end. So this will schedule the events and recurrences with the same link for the entire series. So the participants can use the same link to join the session on each and every month. All right. So now we are moving on to co-host option. So here comes the co-host where you can have an option of making your organization users as a co-host to join your session. So previously we saw an option of making a participant as a co-host in your online session. So this option is about making your organization users to start the meeting on your stead. So let's say if you don't have an access to a laptop, the co-host of your meeting can start the meeting on your absence. Now let's move on to reminders. So here comes the multiple reminders option where you can configure right over here. So through this, you can make everybody to attend the meeting without any absence. And moreover, here we provide the session files option. So as I already told you, instead of sharing the entire screen and application, you can share only a PDF and a PPT slide. So here comes the attach files option where you need to attach it from your computer, or else if you have a work drive account, you can access it right from the work drive account as well. So once it is uploaded, it will be available on your files library where you can easily select it and share the files on your online meeting. So once you're done filling out the details in the scheduling option, you can go for clicking on the schedule button. So this will schedule the meeting as per the time that you have provided and it will take you to the meeting details page. Here you can see the complete details about the presenter, topic of the meeting and invited participants right from here. Now, let me walk you through what are all the different ways of a participant to join your meeting. We have actually 3 different ways for a participant to join your meeting. If you don't remember the email ID of a participant while scheduling a meeting, you can just simply copy the meeting link and ask your participants to join the link right from there. And also, you can ask the participants to visit meet.zoho.com and ask them to enter the meeting ID and the password provided over here. All the meetings you schedule will be provided with the password embedded URL. They need not to enter the password manually, where they can simply click on the join meeting button to join your session. Now, here comes the third way, which is only for the invitees who can use the join meeting button sent along with the meeting invite. Now, coming back to the details page, here at the right side, you can see the edit button where you can reschedule the meeting to postpone the session, or else you can do the modifications like inviting more participants as well. Unfortunately, if you're not available throughout the day to conduct the scheduled meeting, you can also go for canceling the session using the cancel option. Now, let's talk about how the events will be added onto your calendars. Here we have an add to calendar option which will download an ICS file where you can import it to your preferable calendars. Apart from that, if you are a Gmail user, it will be added on your Google Calendar automatically. If you are a Zoho Mail user, it will be added on your Zoho Calendar. Moreover, we also have an option of providing the embed widget option for each and every meeting that you schedule. So it will provide the join link URL in form of the iframe where it can be embedded onto your meeting sites. So the participants whomsoever visiting your website will know about your meeting where they can click on the join meeting button to join your online session. So this is all about how you schedule an upcoming meeting in advance. Now let's go for scenario 5. Some of you would like to want the previous meeting to be conducted again. So for this, you need not to create a new one by filling the details all over again, because Zoho Meeting provides an option to clone the meeting of your past session. So here comes the meetings tab. When you click on the past session, you will have an option called repeating the meeting right from here. So not only an option to repeat the meeting, you can also retrieve the chat conversations, notes, polls, and the results of your whiteboard right from here. In addition to this, you can also be able to join the meeting if you have been invited by any organization user. So the meeting account is not only for starting the session, you can also join the meeting if you have been invited. So let's see about it. If you want to join any meeting, you can go for the upcoming sessions and click on invited meetings from the drop down. So here comes the join button page where you can join the meeting directly from your account itself. So this will help you to save the time instead of searching for the join link from your inbox and from your calendar. And moreover, we have come up with a revamped view of the meeting listing page, which will help you to enhance the mode of access. For example, if you'd like to search for any meeting, here you can make use of the search button and sort it based on the title, date, as well as the date range. All right, so now it's time for some Q&A session. So please use the Q&A tab to ask your questions, and here we have a dedicated person who will clarify your queries. So currently we saw about how to conduct an online meeting and how to schedule an upcoming meeting in advance. Please do let us know if you have any questions about it. And in the meanwhile, we will move on to the next topic on how to schedule the webinars. So before we get on to this, let's have a brief introduction about our webinar software. What is webinar? It is an online training session where you can virtually present your screen in presence of your co-organizers and your attendees. So since it is a real-time session, here you can keep your attendees engaged by launching polls, answering Q&A, playing videos, presenting slides and documents. So using our webinar tool, you can conduct webcasting, online events, workshop, or a training session. For an instance, if you're giving a product demo or a review about an application, this tool will be most useful for you. Now, let's see about the overview of webinar module. Now, moving back to the same homepage of Zoho Meeting, click on the Webinars tab. Here you can see the list of your upcoming webinars, past webinars, where you will get all the reviews of your past sessions. If you'd like to get the poll results, if you'd like to get the polls that you have already entered for your webinar, you can easily access it from your past sessions. Now, Let me tell you how to create webinars using Zoho Meeting. Here we have a schedule button which will take you to the scheduling page. Here you need to now design your webinar planning in a step-by-step process. The first step is scheduling, where you need to give a suitable topic for your webinar and a detailed description in the description field. Once done with this, you can choose the date, time, and the duration of the webinar. And here comes the clone webinar option, where you can repeat your past webinar to happen in the future. So using this clone webinar option, you can completely avoid redoing your work because the details of the past webinar will be automatically applied in your current webinar. It will provide you the list of your past webinars where you can automatically apply all the details of your past webinars in the current session. Now, let's jump on to the recurring webinar. So here comes the recurring webinar option to make the webinar happen on multiple occurrences. Unlike meeting, here you have the registration type, which actually allows you to differentiate whether you need a single registration for a series of webinar or an individual registration for a recurring webinar. So once done with the first step, here you can click on next to add the second details. So the second option is adding co-organizers for your webinar. While hosting a webinar, you can lighten your load by adding co-organizers to your session. So they need not to have a Zoho Meeting account in order to join your webinar as a co-organizer. Now let me tell you how to add a co-organizer. You need to enter their email address and name so they will get an email invite to join your webinar. So right now I'm going to provide an email address of a person. Once done, they will be getting an email invite to join your session. So right now I'm showing you a sample of how come the webinar co-organizer invite looks like. It will have a join webinar button along with the title of the webinar and the description so that the person on time will be joining your webinar as a co-organizer. Now, let's discuss about what a co-organizer can do. The co-organizer can co-host the presentation, they can answer the questions from your attendees, they can launch polls, record webinar, and also make an attendee to speak during the webinar. So once done with adding the first and the second step, you can go for clicking on the next button to add the further details. If not, you can click on skip and finish to step into the final process. So right now I'm going to click on the skip and finish button, which will take me to the webinar details page. Here you can see the complete details about the organizer of the webinar, the title of the webinar, and the description. You can also see the other details which has been shown while scheduling the webinar. So you can do the customization whenever you want from the webinar details page, or else you can do the customization while scheduling the webinar as well. Now, let me walk you through the registration process. So whenever you create a webinar, you will be provided with a unique webinar link from the share option. Here we have two different types of setup. One is with and another one is without registration. So what is with registration? Here you can make the registrants to join the webinar only after they register for the session. Then what is without registration? That is nothing but you can make the attendees to join the webinar directly without doing any registration process. Now, let me show you a live example of how these two setups will work. So here you need to copy the webinar link and check whether you have enabled with registration. And this is how the registration form looks like. It has the set of form fields that you have included on the manage field option. So once they have filled out all the details, they will be taken to the landing page, and this is how it looks like. The registrants can join the webinar on this page using the join webinar option, or else they can join the webinar from the confirmation email. So this is how the confirmation email looks like, and they will have a join webinar button to join the session at the scheduled time. And as the organizer, you can manage and track the registrations from the details page. So here comes the details page. If you are an organizer, you need to click on the total count on the top, which will provide you the list of the registrants who have registered for your webinar. If you would like to review the registration, you can click on the name, which will provide you the list of the information that they have filled out during the registration process. You will also have an option of exporting the list as a CSV file. If you'd like to get the list of all your registrants, those who have registered for your webinar, you can go for the export option. All right. So till now we have seen how the registration process works. Right now I'm going to show you how without registration looks like. So once you switch on the toggle of without registration, you need to copy the same webinar link and share it with your attendees. So instead of the register button, they will have a join webinar button. So they can immediately fill in their name and the email address to quickly jump onto your session. So they need not to wait for the confirmation email where they can immediately jump onto the session after giving the details. So this is how you need to set up the registration process for your webinar. All right. So now we are going to see some of the features in Zoho Webinar based on scenarios. Here comes the scenario one. Here we have a sports equipment manufacturing company who has organized a webinar to launch their new product. For marketing purposes, the product marketer of this company is looking for a way to find out the resistance where they are actually coming from. To achieve this, Zoho Webinar provides a feature called source tracking. So here we have a source tracking feature at the bottom, which will help you to add a source for every registration that you get. So let's say if your source name is Facebook, you need to add the source name as Facebook right from here. What will happen is it will provide you a unified link for the Facebook page. So instead of copying the link from the share option, you need to copy the link right from here. So this link should be posted on your Facebook page where you will be getting a live count on the number of visitors and the registrants right from here. So this feature will help you to get a valuable information about where your registrants are coming from and helps you in the business growth. We move on to scenario 2. Here you are going to learn how to customize the email templates for the different emails sent to your registrants and attendees. So as I already told you, there are a lot of email conversations happening between the webinar. So example, we have already seen a confirmation email that has been sent to a registrant and a co-organizer invite that has been sent to a co-organizer. So what if you are being provided with an ability to customize all the emails? Yes, we have an email customization option provided on the details page. When you click on the customize email option, it will take you to the email customization section. You will be provided with an option to click on the insert or a plain text option. If not, you can go for the predefined templates that we provide at the bottom. So you can create the template on your own, or else you can go for the predefined templates that we provide. For an instance, let me show you a sample email invite which I have customized. So this is how it looks like. Similarly, you can customize it with your own branding by uploading your company logo, adding company profiles to let them know about your organization, or else you can attach the documents if you want to send it to your attendees. So let's say if you're conducting a workshop, you can include a certificate here once the session gets over. So once the session is over, the attendees will be getting a thank you email template along with the certificate that you have provided. So not only an option to customize the emails, you can also configure the reminder emails sent to your registrants and co-organizers. You can also set the multiple reminders by enabling this option and configure here how long before the reminder email has to be sent. Now we move on to scenario 3. Some of you would like to include the recording of the webinar to be sent out to your absentees and attendees post your session. For this, you need not to run a separate campaign by creating it manually because Zoho Webinar allows you to set up the recording link in the follow-up email itself. Let me tell you how. So you need to access the same email section and where you will have an option called the thank you email next to the follow-up option. Here you need to select the configure button and select include recording. Here you need to specify how long after the thank you email has to be sent. Once it is done, you need to ensure that whether the customized template has been chosen and the recording link is included inside the template or not. For this, you need to access the edit icon, and here you will have an option of clicking on the use button so that the thank you email template will be automatically chosen for your current webinar. And moreover, you will also be provided with a preview option where you can easily ensure whether the recording link is included or not. From the same preview option, you will also be provided with a clone option where you can clone the template right from here. All right. So now we move on to scenario 4. In this scenario, you're going to learn how to set up the restrictions for your registrations. When it comes to with registration, any number of people can register for your webinar. So, we have come up with a lot of features to restrict the registrations based on business email address, domain, and the country. Here we have the registration setup, and where you will have an option called advanced settings. So it will provide you a lot of features to restrict the registrations. For example, if you want the registrations to come only from United States, you can go for allowing the registrants only from USA. Similarly, you can also block the registrations for certain countries. Also provide an option of setting up the limitations on the number of registrations. So once the webinar has reached the specified count, it will not further allow any registrations. And moreover, you can also avoid the spam registrations by allowing the registrants to join the session only from email, so that the person who is a spammer will not be able to join the session from the landing page. Right. So now we move on to scenario 5. In this scenario, you're going to learn how to keep your attendees engaged during the session and make your attendees to take action right after your webinar. In order to keep the attendees engaged during the session, here we have an option called polls. You can go for creating the polls from here, or else you can also create the live polls in your ongoing session. So not only an option to create a set of polls, you can also go for adding the session materials. If you'd like to play an introductory video in your ongoing webinar, you can upload that video right from here. Moreover, you will also be able to upload a PDF and a PPT slide. So instead of going for a screen sharing, you can go for sharing only the document that you want to share. Now, we move on to an important feature on keeping the attendees to be engaged after the session. Here we have an option called post-webinar redirection, where you can keep the attendees to be engaged after the session. So all you need to do is just enable that option and enter the URL where you want to direct the attendees once the session gets over. So this is nothing but a landing page for your webinar. So through this, you can make your attendees to be redirected to your site to encourage them to sign up for your product or show them about your offers, and also provide ratings and feedbacks for your session. All right. So this is all about how you do the customization for a webinar that you have scheduled. So the final thing left out is how to promote your webinar. Here you can see the registration link that can be sent to your target audience via email, social media, and other messaging apps. You can also drive the webinar registrations by embedding the registration form on your web pages and blogs. We have already learned in the online meeting why you can embed the iframe on your website. But in webinar, we have provided also the source code. So where you can input the source code on your website, through which you can get a lot of registrations for your webinar. Moreover, instead of moving away from the tool, you can also share the webinar registration links in your Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter profile. We also have an integration of Zoho campaigns with Zoho Webinar, where you can promote your webinar by sending out a campaign email to your previous leads and contacts. So this is all about how you promote your webinar. So once done with scheduling and promotion of your webinar, you can start the session right from the details page. So when you click on the start button, it will take you to the webinar launch page, where it will ask you an option of launching the session from your desktop or else from your browser. The advantage of launching the session from your desktop will provide you a video feed and the webinar control in a floating window. But right now, I'm going to launch the session from the browser. So when you click on the browser option, it will not ask you to download any application. It will take you to the browser session directly. And here it comes the preview option, where you need to choose the devices that has been connected to your system. And here you will have an option also to join the session using the phone audio. But right now I'm going to go for the computer audio. And this is how the organizer window looks like. All right. So now let me show you how attendee joins the webinar after they have registered. So previously I have already registered as an attendee here, and it will directly take me to the webinar window. The attendees will not have an option to choose the preview because they are going to join the session in muted state. They will have a join now button. So once they click on the join now button, they will be taken to the webinar window. And this is how an attendee screen looks like. Now, coming back to the organizer screen, though you have started the webinar, but you will get to have a practice session with your co-organizers before you actually begin it. So as you see, there is a start broadcast button at the bottom, which means you are currently in the practice session mode. Until you click on this button, attendees will have a page stating that waiting for the webinar to broadcast. So until you click on that button, attendees will not be able to hear or see the audio, video, and screen. So this can be used as a communication between you and the co-organizers. And once you're ready to present, you can click on the start broadcast button. And now the webinar will be broadcasted to all of your attendees. All right. So now we are going to see the other tools that has been provided in the webinar organizer window. Here comes the attendees tab through which you can see the list of the attendees, those who have joined the webinar. From the more actions provided next to each attendee, you will have certain options and controls. So by default, they will all be in listen and view only mode. But you can make any attendee to communicate during the session by sharing the screen, showing the webcam, and talking. On doing this, it will make your session to be more interactive and engaging. Besides, attendees can also use raise an option as a signal in order to grab the attention of the organizer, just like a physical classroom. So as you see, there is a hand icon next to the respective attendee who has actually used it. So based on this, you can give the certain options like allow to talk or allow to talk with video. Besides, you can also make any attendee as a co-organizer in your ongoing session. So let's say if you forgot to assign the co-organizer role before you start the webinar, you can quickly make any of your attendee as a co-organizer to help you in your ongoing session. And moreover, you will also be able to remove any attendee from the session when they are no longer part of your webinar. All right. So now let's move on to Q&A. The webinar attendees can ask any questions throughout the session using the Q&A tab. So when they start typing in the questions, they will also have an option of asking the questions anonymously. So as you see, there is a toggle provided at the bottom where they have an option of enabling it and ask the questions right from here, so that their name will not be populated to the organizer. The organizers and the co-organizers can view the questions from their end, where they will have an option of answering the questions either as publicly or privately. And if you have a bulk volume of questions to be answered, you can go for the predefined templates that we provide. And as an organizer, you can also send useful links, text, or email address to your attendees throughout the session. But this is actually a one-way communication from the organizer to your attendees. In case if they have any further clarification, they can still use the Q&A tab. You can also now assign the questions to your other co-organizers to simplify the answering process. And here you can decline any questions if you find it unnecessary to your session. You will also have an option of set priority like high, medium, or low, where you can make the answering process in priority. Now, let's move on to polls. In order to get a valuable insights from your audience, you can either create instant polls using the add poll option, or else you can go for launching the polls that you have already created. So when a poll has been started, there will be a pop-up on the attendee screen in order to respond to it. So once they have responded, the results will be instantly generated on the organizer screen. So by default, these results will be hidden to them. If you'd like to publish the result, you can go for the publish result option. All right. So now we move on to more actions. So from the more actions, you can easily change the settings of your current webinar. Here we have the first option, recording. So I have already enabled auto recording functionality for the webinar. So the session starts to record automatically without my intervention. Similar to meeting, here we have pause and resume option. You will also be able to stop the recording, and you will also be able to pause and resume the recording later. And if you're organizing the webinar as a sales group, you can share the webinar recording as a product demo and helpful video for new users. Now let's move on to virtual background. So here comes the virtual background option, where you will have an option of uploading a custom images of your choice, and also change the background in your ongoing webinar. And moreover, you will also be able to apply effects to the video feed to lighten up your face. All right. So here we have a picture-in-picture option where we have introduced this option in webinar as well to view the video feeds and the webinar control tools in the floating window. Now, let's move on to network performance. From the network performance tool, you can check the performance and connectivity of your network and also the other optimizations taken place. So before we learn about this live on YouTube, I'm going to collate this feature with a scenario. So as of now, we saw about how to broadcast the webinar within the application itself. So as you see, the webinar is organized from Zoho Webinar application. According to the attendees plan that you choose, the attendees will be joining your webinar. But what if you'd like to gather more number of attendees and have a real-time engagement on your session? So we are going to launch the webinar in your YouTube channel. So we have provided an option of live on YouTube, which will help you to launch the webinar in your YouTube channel. So using this, you can have a wider reach for your product and maximize your audience. So all you need to do is just start the webinar and click on live on YouTube option, which will stream your ongoing webinar in your YouTube channel. Now, let's move on to audio and video settings. Within the webinar itself, if you would like to change any audio and video devices, you can go for changing it right from here. So without ending the webinar, you can change it directly from the more actions itself. Now, let's move on to multiple layouts. If you have more number of co-organizers joined your session, you can view their video feeds in tile view and sidebar. All right. So now we are back to the attendee screen, and now we are going to learn about visual feedback through live reactions. Here we are at the attendee screen where the attendees can express their thoughts by sending out the emojis in your ongoing webinar. So using this, you can check their reactions when you specifically provide a demo or a speech. Now, let's move on to sharing. Using the start sharing, you can deliver the presentation and demo about the topic you're organizing. To share your screen, you can go for Chrome tab sharing, application window, or an entire screen sharing. So instead of going for an entire or an application sharing, you can go only for sharing a PDF or a PPT slide. Or else, if you'd like to play an introductory video, you can go for the session materials, which will help you to show all the files that you have uploaded. So here I have already uploaded some, and let me show you a video here. So once you start playing a video that will be heard by your audience. So once done with playing the video, you can click on the pause and end the option right from here. So not only an option to play a video, you can also show the PDF and the PPT slides that you have uploaded. So where the participants will be able to zoom in and zoom out in order to get a detailed view about the document that you're sharing. All right. So this is all about how you broadcast your webinar with all of your attendees. Once done with the webinar, you can click on the end webinar button to end the session for all of your attendees. So as discussed earlier, attendees will be redirected to the site as per the post webinar redirection URL that you have provided. So this is the URL that I have provided. So similarly, you can do it for your own website where they will get landed on your website. Coming back to the Zoho meeting site, once the webinar and a meeting session gets over, we have introduced an analytical report here. So once the session gets over, you can get a detailed analytical view of the number of sessions conducted, duration, and a complete performance report of your participants. The current dashboard here gives you a detailed chart explaining about the number of sessions conducted and as per the respective date provided. Here you can sort the report based on the meeting host and the date when it was conducted. And here from the session history, you will get the total number of the participants joined the session and also helps you the level of dedication towards the meeting. For example, if you want to see their in and out time, you will have an option to choose the date here. So once it has been sorted, you will have an option to click on the participants count right from the same page. So this provides you an in and out time, the duration, the role of the person who belongs in the meeting, and also the device which they have used to join the meeting. If you'd like to get a complete list in a CSV or an XLS sheet, you can also go for export it right from here. Similarly, you can also get the report for webinar module as well. All right. So now we step on to recordings. So as of now, we saw on how to host and schedule the meetings and webinars. So now let's learn how to revisit the topic that you have discussed during the session. So here from my recordings, you can see the list of all the session recordings of your meetings and webinars separately. Here you can replay the recording online using the play option and also share the recording link with the members who couldn't make it to your session. And here we have accessibility permission through which you can disable the public access few days after sharing the link. For example, here you can decide whether you need to share the recording link with anyone, no one, or anyone in your organization. Now, coming to offline access, we have provided an option to download the recording so you can save the recording as a MP4 format for offline use. If you'd like to delete the recordings to free some space, we have provided bulk select option through which you can select the recordings in bulk and delete the recordings in mass. Now, moving on to the other part, currently we saw about how to initiate the sessions from the web browsers. So as you have seen, I have launched the webinars only from Chrome browser and Firefox browser. But what if you don't have a laptop or a desktop? So we are going to learn about what are all the other ways of joining the session. Zoho Meeting has iOS and Android application to get connected remotely when you don't have an access to a laptop or a desktop. So here comes the Zoho Meeting iOS and Android app so that you can hold the meetings, attend live webinars, participate in polls, make video calls, and much more. So all these options can be done using Zoho Meeting mobile application. Now, let's see how you can set up your Zoho Meeting account and customize it as per your requirement. So now we are going to step on to the last tab, settings. So under my settings, you can set up the local information such as the time zone of your location and a time format to set it as a default format for the future meetings and webinars that you schedule. And moreover, we also provide multi-language support system, which is an essential part to avoid the language barriers. So we provide a set of 16 languages that can be chosen from your Zoho Meeting account. So here you can also see the other settings provided under my settings, which will be a user-based setting and can be available to all the users in your organization. Now, moving on to organization setting, here we have co-branding. What is co-branding? If you'd like to upload a logo and company name in your registration form and email headers, this is the perfect place for you. Here you need to access the settings and upload the logo so that it will be reflected on your email headers. So the options provided under manage organization will be a org based setting and can be accessed only by an administrator. Now, moving on to the user management, you can manage all the users and their respective profiles. Here you can add or remove any user from your organization who has actually left your company. So this will help you to allocate the profiles for each and every user who you're going to add. So this will make you to maintain the hierarchy of your organization. We also have a custom domain profile where you can upload your CNAME record right from here. So what will happen is it will have a unique branded name on the URL that actually identifies your website. Now, moving on to departments, you can classify each and every users according to the departments they are in. It will help you to classify the entire organization into small groups. So this will eventually make the users to help the ease of managing them. Now, moving on to email configuration, this is a reply to email address to which the registrants can reply to clarify their concerns. So this part is only for the webinar module where you can add a reply to email address right from here. So as you see, I have already uploaded a email address here and it has been verified. So that this makes the process simple by handing over the job to your team members instead of replying the email for as an organizer. Now, moving on to security, Here we have a privacy settings provided through which you can anonymize all the personal data such as IP address, name, and that email address. And here we have a action log viewer through which you can easily see the actions performed by the users and the date when it was performed. We have now introduced a data cleanup option through which you can do a periodical removal of your older information that is about analytics, recording, and other actions taken place in your account. Now, moving on to payments part, under the subscriptions, you will get the details of your current subscription where you can manage the same. So through this, you can easily check when will be your next renewal date. All right. So now we move on to integrations. Zoho Meeting provides integration with sorry. Zoho Meeting provides integration with other Zoho products such as CRM, bookings, campaigns, mail, backstage, projects, sprints, notebook, and connect. Not only the integration with Zoho products, we also have the integration with third-party major applications. So the one that we have provided over here is Microsoft Teams and Slack. Using this integration, you can conduct instant meetings with your people directly from your Teams channel. The Zoho Meeting integration with Slack allows you to conduct an online meeting using the simple Slack commands from your Slack workspace. Now, moving back to the homepage of Zoho Meeting, and at the top, you will be provided with a download icon to download the desktop application right from here. We also have extensions for Chrome and Firefox browser to start the meetings easily from your extensions itself. The other third party integration provided here is Outlook. So, this is the plugin for Zoho Meeting where it can be downloaded right from here. So, which will help you to schedule the meetings directly from your Outlook account itself. In addition to these integrations, we have recently introduced Zoho Meeting integration with Zoho Voice, through which you can receive and make local and international business calls all from within Zoho Meeting. So, moreover, you will also be able to engage on a conversation with two-way SMS with the same setup. All right. So, now we are going to see the features which are being handled in our upcoming update. First, we are going to see for the webinar module. So, we are going to launch the chat option between the organizer and the co-organizers very soon. And similar to meeting, we are developing the whiteboard option to annotate during the webinar. Now, let's see the features which are being handled in the meeting module. We are in the process of developing the private chats and waiting room option. And moreover, we are working on to support pin video feed to spotlight a video. And also, we are working on with playing the video fields in the screen sharing itself. Now, it's time for some question and answer. Please ask your questions, and here we have a person who's here to clarify your queries. In today's session, we have seen how to organize the webinars and conduct an online meeting using Zoho Meeting software. Kindly let us know if you have any questions about any of the features I have mentioned today. In the meanwhile, we're also going to see some of the frequently asked questions and the answers related to it. So here's the question on how to annotate during the meeting. The answer is, as we have seen, we have a whiteboard feature in online meeting module, which is available for both the presenter and the participants who can share a whiteboard through which they can draw, annotate, and sketch. Here comes the second question that is related to a customized background image of a video feed. The answer is you can select both the predefined and also upload custom images and GIFs to make them as a background in your online meeting and webinar. Here comes the last question that is about security and privacy in online sessions. The answer to the question is Zoho Meeting is absolutely secure because the tool offers multiple security features to keep your meetings safe from disruption. Because we have already seen a way of locking your meeting and also have an option of password protection embedded on your online meetings. Besides, it also encrypts your audio, video, and screen sharing in order to keep the information safe during the session. I hope you all have explored and enjoyed this webinar, and I believe the demonstration that I gave in this webinar is very useful for you.